Good morning, Fairfax community. I hope you guys enjoyed Georgina Statius, the business owner. We're going to go to a bit of an extreme now. We have an extraordinary person. You're going to hear about his extraordinary life, both in the past, the present, and what he's planning to do. But his occupation is one of great secrecy. When the community call upon the police, there are different levels of policing, and this person is the last line of defence. So when your normal general purpose duties police can't handle it, and even other divisions, then we call upon what's called the Special Operations Group. So this is quite a privilege that we be speaking with one today, because they are shrouded in secrecy for good purposes, and they go into the most difficult situations and deal with the most dangerous of people. I'm going to mention his name. For some privacy and work reasons, we're not going to show his face on YouTube. I think that's probably the best idea. His name is Kyle Gemmell. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no worries, Ross. How are you?
I'm good. I feel intimidated just looking at you, Kyle, knowing what your occupation is and what you undertake and the people that you deal with. But I'm, like everyone in the public, glad that people like yourself exist. Kyle,
Yeah.
how long? Sorry.
No, I just said, yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, that's
how long have you been in the Special Operations Group, Kyle?
Yeah, I've been here for close to 13 years now.
Is that a long tenure for such a specialised department?
It is. There are people here that have been here longer. Some other guys of my rank have been here longer, but I'm starting to get up there in terms of being one of the longest. In terms of again, at my rank, we have bosses here that have been here for a lot longer than me, and of different ranks as well. But from my rank and my perspective and my roles in that, yeah, it is quite extreme. Quite a fair time here at the office.
So, Kyle, let's go back. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small country town called Nathaya, population 1,500 people. Beautiful part of the country there. So, yeah, loved it. Loved growing up there. Very quiet. Just the way I like my life, really. I try and, enjoy those comforts of going back home to the country area.
A pretty normal childhood?
Yeah, I did. Yes. Yeah. Definitely nothing out of the ordinary. Had great experience growing up there. Mum, dad, older brother, all my family and friends around me. So the good thing about Nathaya is there's only a couple of schools. There's the government schools and the Catholic schools. And I pretty much went through I did go through the government system. And so even some of my friends that did go through the Catholic system, we all went to kinder together, went through primary school together, then obviously branched off into, if people were going to the Catholic school or to the government school, we just stayed in that system. Yeah.
Were you a tough kid, Kyle?
No, I wouldn't say tough. I just tried to stick to myself, really. I was probably a reasonably dedicated and determined person from a young age. I did grow and develop a lot earlier than some of my fellow friends and that, but they soon caught up to me once we went to high school. So I tried not to be a bully or anything like that. I tried to avoid all that. I didn't try and intimidate people, or maybe on the footy field, but that's about it, really.
So, well, let's look into a bit more about tough, because we're obviously going to build into your amazing career. Did you enjoy a physical challenge from a young age and mental challenges?
Yeah, I did. So for me, during my younger years, I was actually quite a large person. I was a fat child. Enjoyed my food and everything like that. Then it wasn't until really the age of 10 or 11, I started to obviously start to grow. Again, as I said earlier, I developed a bit earlier than some of my friends and stuff like that. So I started to lose weight and really had a couple of friends and mentors down there in Nathaya who I still keep in contact with, and really started to get into the fitness stream. So running and riding and playing Aussie rules football from the age of 10. And I was really that was sort of one of my outlets, really. And one of my enjoyments was keeping fit. And obviously, once I started losing the weight and seeing those changes, I really enjoyed it, and kept going on from there. So,
what did you do when you finished high school?
From high school, for my teenage years, I actually had the goal and dream of wanting to be an AFL footballer. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for me, but I can honestly look back and reflect back now and say I gave it my best shot. And look, I just wasn't good enough, so I can live with that. But it wasn't until sort of year 11, I was pretty confident individual, I suppose, back then. Thinking that I still was going to get drafted and make it, but it wasn't until some of my family said, hang on, mate, you better start thinking about, having a plan B. So again, my mentors and peers back in Nathaya were my teachers, and I loved sport, I loved PE, and wanted to become a secondary PE teacher. However, unfortunately, I didn't get the scores to get into that. So next best thing was there wasn't really, I didn't want to go into the family business or anything like that, which was bricklaying and concreting, and obviously being a country town, there's a lot of trades and stuff around there. There just wasn't sort of much more else around there. So I decided to move down to Melbourne and get into the fitness industry for a couple of years until I worked out what I wanted to do.
So what happened after that? Was it straight into the police force?
No, it wasn't. So I tried out for the police force. I had a couple of friends who were doing it at the time. So this was around sort of that 99, 2000 year. And unfortunately, I wasn't a real academic sort of person at school. So I battled with the initial entrance exams and stuff like that. So I went and saw a tutor, and he was actually kind to me. He said, maybe this probably isn't for you at this stage. So go off and get a bit of experience and a bit of life behind you, then try out at a later date. So the next best thing was, I was always loved watching Rambo growing up as a kid, and I thought, well, what better experience can you get than join the military? So I joined the Defence Force, the Army, and got a bit of learning and experience out of that.
Kyle, was it around about this period when probably the worst thing that you could imagine happened in your life?
Yeah, it did, Ross. Again, I was, I suppose, I was always dedicated and wanting to, to excel or become the best in something. I knew at that stage. So this was early 2021, 2001. At this stage that I wasn't going to become that, AFL football. I thought I was. So I thought, well, I wanted to get into special forces in the military. And that was the line I was going down. I'd completed my basic training at Kapuka, marched out, was starting to undertake further courses and stuff like that when on the 28th of August 2001, my mother died, and at the hands of my father. So for a young individual who was 20 at the time and everything like that, it really rocked me and set me back a fair bit.
Can you tell me about the day when you were told, or how did it transpire?
Yeah, look, it's something that plays in my memory every day. So I remember speaking to both my mother and father for the last time, especially my mother. I was living in Melbourne with a couple of friends, Bardo and Steve Fulton. And I remember getting the phone calls from mum and dad, and mum saying, look, she'd made up her mind that she was moving, she was leaving Athea. And then, which I couldn't accept at the time or couldn't understand and didn't like. Then received the phone call from father just saying, yep, she's leaving, she's gone, she'll be going. Along those lines, obviously some other details from both of them amongst that. Then I don't know why I said it, but I once I got off the phone, I actually said to both my roommates at the time, I said, yeah, I said that they're going to die. So it was a real weird thing to say at the time. I just I didn't know who I was sort of more referring to, or whether it was for both. Obviously, mum was very emotional on the phone, and obviously some things had transpired prior to that back in my hometown and stuff like that for the lead up. I just knew that I just knew that they weren't in a great headspace at that stage.
Then what happened?
So I was at work in Melbourne, and I get called to the so I was in the fitness industry at that stage, just at the local gym, and just called to the front desk, and was handed the phone, and it was my brother on the other end. And he was obviously very upset at that time. Understandably, I didn't know why at that stage, and I said, "What's wrong, mate?" And he just goes, "Yeah, mum's dead." So, and at that stage, he didn't know much more than that, and basically, literally within a minute or two of that happening, I had my best mate, Aaron Peacock, walk in, and Bardo, my roommate, Paul Barton, and they actually knew more than what I did at that stage. So they'd received some phone calls from the Thayer and saying that what had taken place, or a rough indication of what had taken place, and they were there to support me. And I just remember just being in pure shock at the time. I couldn't, I didn't cry at first. I was just in pure shock. So I just remember sitting in the office there going, yeah, right. I was just lost at that stage. Yeah.
So how do you reconcile the fact that two people that you love with all your heart, one of them's killed the other one? How do you come to terms with that?
It's something that I had to work through a lot. It still affects me to this day in terms of trust. Like you hit the nail on the head there, Ross, that, I had an awesome childhood. I I grew up around family and friends. My father's side only. My mother's side of the family, obviously, she's got a sister and brothers, a stepbrother and father, and they didn't really have much to do with my upbringing, just because of my mum's issues with her father and stuff like that. So to actually have one of the persons that you put all your trust in and all your love, and I definitely had a great childhood from my parents and upbringing. For one of them to do that to the other is just something that is unfathomable. I just never thought that would possibly happen. You see that stuff on the news and you hear about that stuff on the news growing up, and the old cliche, you just never think it's going to happen to you, especially in a small country town. You know what I mean? Like, there wasn't much crime, if any at all, and for someone to do that, and someone that wasn't a violent person to me or my brother or my mother. Like, again, I don't know what happened behind closed doors and that when I wasn't there, but he wasn't that sort of person. You know what I mean? Like, on the footy field, everyone gets white line fever, but he just wasn't that type of person. So yeah.
So the trial, the sentencing, all that sort of stuff, how hard was that on you and your brother?
Yeah, look, my brother, and there's a 4-year age gap there. He's 4 years older than me, and obviously growing up, he we didn't get along the best. Obviously, he had his mates, I had mine, and he was definitely a typical older brother and sort of giving me a hiding and stuff like that. It definitely brought us a hell of a lot closer, as we were left to deal with a lot of stuff. Bar obviously the financial side of things and sorting out houses and cars and funerals and whatever else. To go through the trial, but it was hard because it was an extended trial that went for a while. Then obviously the family estate took well over 10 years to sort out. So the issue was, like, Shane and I, having grown up in the Thayer, being around 99% of the time my dad's side of the family, it's segregated and separated the family, in terms of, as you can imagine, like how, it's your mother and father, like, regardless, like Shane and I are in the middle, and the other side of the family are wondering why aren't we supporting the old man, but the old man's gone and done what he's done. You know what I mean? It's it caused a lot of tension, and still does to this day. And I make no two bones of that. It's a hard thing to go through that. Shane had to give evidence. Obviously, I provided a statement. I didn't have to provide that statement or give evidence, so I wasn't privy to the trial in terms of because I thought I might have to give evidence, so I didn't. I was kept out of it. Whereas Shane had to give evidence, but obviously during those periods, a lot of stuff's brought up, stuff that you don't know about as a child as you're growing up. Things, Dad may have done, Mum might have done, stuff like that. Yeah, it's hard. It was a really hard, stressful time at that stage because we lost everything. We, like I had nothing. I had nobody. Same with Shane. Shane had his now fiance, which was great. They were together when I went prior to this, so he had that support. Whereas I was in Melbourne and I didn't have a girlfriend at the time, per se, like not a steady one. And to not then have the support of all the people you're growing up with, even though they were happy to support you, but you just felt obligated that you had to support, your old man. Well, how can you in that situation? That's the battles I've had, and even to this day.
Do you have any contact with your father?
No, I don't. No, none whatsoever. It's something that, I just can't. I can't forgive and forget, regardless of the circumstances behind everything, and what's taken place. Like, again, I don't, completely know everything, nor probably do I want to. Sometimes I do. But he's, no, I don't, I don't. I know that he's done his time now. He got good behaviour and got released early. Then, obviously, went back in, broke his parole, went back in, I don't know how long for, completed the rest of his sentence, I think. Then, he's now back out and living back in the Fayal. So how he could return to a town where it's actually taken place, that incident, I couldn't do that. But obviously his brothers and mum and dad, or nan and pop, were there at the time, and they've now passed on. But obviously he's got his closest, he's still got his brothers and sisters there back in the Thea. So for support and mates, I suppose. So, yeah.
Kyle, thanks for talking about that. I'm not even going to begin to try and understand what that would be like. Can you tell us about, how did you move forward? How did you then move into the police force? What was the path after this terrible, terrible event?
Yeah, it was, so as you can imagine, I was lost for quite a while. I'll be the first to admit, when it happened, you can either go two ways. I still remember the last conversation that I had with my mother. I said I wanted to give the police force another go and get back in. And she said some words to me, which I actually have tattooed on my body, which just ring out. So I could have either gone down the track of, okay, well, I go and hit the alcohol and drugs and just become a nobody in life, or I just go, all right, well, I've copped a bit of a bad one here in life. What do I do next? All right, I don't like it, but I've got to accept it, and I just keep moving forward. And probably being such a determined sort of individual at a young age, that was a path I definitely went and wanted to achieve. I wanted to still achieve the best that I could and become the better person and be the best that I can be, because I didn't want to let mum down. And obviously from the last conversation we had, as I mentioned earlier, I said that what I wanted to do and what I wanted to achieve. So for me, I did have some bad years there, though, prior to getting into the police force. Definitely, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have any some mental issues, mental health issues from it, which I had to deal with and overcome. And I was totally upfront and honest about that prior to getting into the police force as well, because I didn't want to have to go through this process and obviously get knocked back because of those issues. I had great friends around me. Again, Aaron Peacock is more like a brother to me than a best mate. His family took me in. They looked after me and pretty much become my second parents. So, I had to again, just due to some family issues and family conflicts, let's just say, it was best that I get out of Nathaya, because I did come back to Nathaya to try and sort some things out with family and obviously family-related issues. But, it was too bitter, twisted, too many angry heads down there. So, I moved to where my mate Aaron was and his family, and started the process of, okay, well, I want to get into the police force now. I want to, the old cliche, I suppose, I wanted to do right, I wanted to do good, and try and make a difference. And so for me, I went and found that some tutors again, and helped me with my passing this entrance exam, which I did. And I just did dedicated 100%, like I do when I get an idea on my head. I give it 110%, and nothing will get in my way, nobody, nothing. And that's what I did. So, and I was lucky enough to get into the police force.
And are you able to share the words that you have tattooed on you that your mum said, or is that private?
It's something that it's close to me. It's something that has been said before, and people have said before, and it's actually a strange set of words that I thought I'd never hear from my mum, but she just said, "Dare to dream." Because the time that when we were talking, the last time I sat down with her, mum had just a short little story. Mum had was moving on. Let's just say that. With someone else, and was moving to Melbourne. She'd come back to Nathaya. She was so obviously getting some items from the family home at the time. Some very stern words were said, with obviously the old man being around, myself, other family members getting involved, and mum was just in a really, really bad headspace. And she had to stay in Nathaya until she finished. Obviously she gave notice at work and everything like that. And for the first time probably ever in my life, I got to sit down with her, and we just spoke, about what her plans were, what my plans were, what I wanted to do, what she was going to do. I didn't like hearing, that she was obviously leaving Dad for someone else and going to move and stuff like that. And I could never, I was carrying on, I could never forgive you. I don't know why are you doing this? But, other words that we spoke about on that night, I'll never told anyone and stuff like that. She was just she didn't care what I did. She was just wanted me to be happy. I was in the military and stuff like that. However, I was really keen on wanting to get into the police force and to where I am now. And it was just strange she said those words. So that's pretty much the story. So there's more to it, but I don't want to drag out for the next couple of hours there, Rob.
That's also private. Kyle, where did you got through the police academy, and how long did you work general duties before you were eligible and you decided to apply for the special operations group?
When I got when I was in got out of the academy, my first training station was Broadmeadows. I originally I originally got Mooney Ponds. However, I wanted to go to Broadmeadows, and funny enough, there was a lady in my sister squad, Michelle, I think her name was. She didn't want to go to Broadmeadows, and I said, "Oh, look, would you be interested in swapping?" And let's just say I didn't take much to twist her arm, so we swapped, and I went to Broadmeadows. I did my 2 years at Broadmeadows. During that stage, even during the academy days, one of my squad mates, his brother was in the SOG at the time, and I joined the police force wanting to get into the SOG. Just like every young male who joins the police force, they either male either wanted to go CI stream or SOG. And obviously I knew what I wanted to do. So I was already even starting to train then. So I did 2 years at Broadmeadows.
Were the underworld wars on then, or was that finishing? Like, was all the shootings and stuff that were going on around the Essendon area?
Oh, actually, good question. There wasn't any of that, obviously, repercussions around Broadmeadows or anything like that. Most of that had, obviously, we had some of the families that lived in the Williamses. His father was in Broadmeadows and around those sort of areas, and that stuff had already, most of it had taken place, I believe. I'm not sure the sort of end result or when that really finished. So at that stage, I knew where I wanted to go, but you had to wait 4 years. You had to become a senior connie. So I was just like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Well, I'll stay at Broadmeadows. Then it's a very busy station, very busy. As I've probably mentioned earlier, I battle with paperwork in terms of that's definitely not my strong suit. So like the paperwork was just ridiculous there in terms of briefs and family violence and everything like that. It was just out of control. So at that stage, I just actually had my first setback as well. I had a ankle reconstruction. So over that 2 year period, though, when I first got to Broadmeadows, it was 4 years, and they lowered it down to 3. Then they lowered it down to you had to be confirmed to get into the SOG. So I was starting to train up for it. I was always pretty reasonably fit at that stage anyway. I was training for it. I was aiming for it. Then I had my first setback, which is an ankle reconstruction. So the next best thing was I just couldn't handle Broadmeadows and general duties anymore. Just the paperwork was killing me. Just not my cup of tea. So I decided to go for at that stage, the FRU, the Force Response Unit, which is now known as the Critical Incident Response Team.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the SOG application. How hard is it?
It's like the actual applying of it is pretty straightforward. It wasn't, you didn't have to, obviously they bring it out in the Gazette, you read it, you have a look up at the website, you fill in your expression of interest, put it through your bosses, and they either sign it off or not, and 99% of the time they'll sign it off and let you go. That was pretty much it in terms of the application stage. It was just more, okay, well, I don't know a lot about it. At that stage, I didn't. I knew of a couple of people around my local area that one was in there, and at that stage, and another one had been in there like from an older vintage, which I knew around the local area, and he was out of the police force. So I just tried to rack their brains as much as possible, and I didn't know anyone in there at the time or anything like that. So I tried to gain as much information as possible. However, again, there's not really a lot given out back in those days. There's a standard training program that was online. Standard sort of information you should know, and a little bit of reading, a little bit on sort of Google, not much for obvious reasons. And so at that stage, it was just like, well, there was a couple of guys I'd heard that were trainers for the SOG application. One was a previous member who'd got out and was running a personal training, was doing personal training and would help people train up for the selection. And there was also a sports scientist as well, who was very commonly known to help train guys up for it. And again, being the sort of person that I was, I left no stone unturned. I gave it 110%, the training programs, whoever I could try and find. Even speaking to my squad mate, even though we'd gone to different stages at that time, his brother was still there. But, you know, I tried not to abuse that link, and neither did he. However, and, you know, to this day, he says he never abused his, abused that in terms of asking his brother and that. But come on, let's be honest. But yeah, he wouldn't sort of give us any lead up training. Then it wasn't until, again, whilst at the cert, there was guys that had left the OR ranks and were sergeants at the cert and stuff like that. So I tried to rack their brains as possible without sort of annoying them. You just try and keep a low profile. It's something that, look, the police force is a small area. Believe it or not, even though there's whatever there is, 17,000 members now, someone always knows someone. You know, it's like that 6 degrees of separation. Someone always knows someone from the SOG, and you just don't want to say the wrong thing and it gets back, or, you know, like rumours and that, you know, it starts off as one thing, and by the time it gets back to the SOG, it's already done a complete 180. So I just tried to do things the best I could and try and keep a low profile.
How hard was the actual process, the application, the physical
and
mental training? How long did that go for, and how hard was it?
Yeah, the actual selection course goes through 2 weeks. So for me, I had a great preparation for that. That was the first time in a long time that I'd actually had a good, consistent training block to get ready for that course. So mentally, I was definitely prepared. Obviously, I was in a long-term relationship with my now wife. I didn't have any kids, so I didn't have any sort of disturbances that way. So I, you know, my home life was good. Mentally, I was good. Obviously, I'd gone through all my family-related matters in terms of, you know, accepting what had gone on. Obviously, there was still ongoing stuff from that, but I knew mentally, no one could break me down. You know, if you can sort of kick on in life, having experienced that, then you're in a good place, you know what I mean? So from that, then the physical element of it, I'd always kept reasonably fit. However, had a really good, you know, once I had the sports scientist on board and the personal trainer, I knew that, I'd be able to give this a reasonable crack, like a fair, well, give it 100% anyway. So on day one, you do all the fitness testing. So you really don't know. You don't know who's on there. You don't know who's going to rock up. You don't know what their backgrounds are, whether they are ex-military, whether they're just Joe Blow off the street, or whether they've been concreters in their past lives or whatever. You don't know anyone on there. So day one, you do the fitness requirements, which you know about. And it's actually funny, like people do fail that, and that's the bare minimum, the absolute bare minimum. So the only thing is, I'll say with that, when you ask guys, like, guys, this is the bare minimum, yeah? They go, oh, yeah, we can pass it. I go, okay, no dramas, but did you do them consecutively on the one day? And that is the common theme that a lot of people who do fail that is they go, yeah, no, we can pass them, but they don't do back to back like I did. So I had a mate that I was training with from the cert, and we just really focused on, okay, all right, these are the bare minimum standards. So once you get through that, obviously there's guys that have dropped out on that. Then day two is when it really starts. And I still remember standing on the basketball court there at the police academy, and the sergeant at the time, his words that sort of ring out in my head and all that. And then it's pretty much on from there. And it is just that next, 10 days or so, 9-10 days, is just full on to say the least.
I'm assuming you're not going home in between the days.
No, you only go, everything for my one, we were away, pretty much you are on the bus and you get taken to a location, and that's where you stay. You only go home on one night in my one, and that was to get obviously wash clothes, because where we were, there was none of those facilities. You come home for that night, try to get a good night's sleep, wash your clothes, and you got to report back that next morning. And then it just continues again right to the end.
How many started and how many have you got through?
I don't remember sorry, it's been so long, Ross. I know that there was a fair few that started. So most courses you can have up to 100 on there. And with my one, I can't remember how many started, but I know that we lost half by the lunchtime on the first day. When I say the first day, that's day 2. So
yeah.
So we'd lost half by then, and we finished selection with 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
And were you pushed to breaking point?
Yeah, look, I can honestly say that I enjoyed that side of things. I was never at one stage there where I've gone, okay, I'm in trouble. There was always members on there that, like for me, I was one of the lucky ones where I was just sort of that, again, that cliche, the grey man. I was never first in anything and I was never last. I was just sort of in that middle group. I never wanted to try and outperform individuals and try and stand out or anything like that.
Is that similar? You guys obviously train very closely with the SAS, and I remember watching this amazing documentary called I think it was Search for a Warrior. On SBS, and one of the instructors, he said the people that we're looking for are exactly what you've just described. So they enjoy being in those uncomfortable zones, and they're not out the front, they're not out the back, they're in the middle.
Yep. I can honestly say that that was definitely me. Whether it be the person that I am, which I am, but also, a bit of military experience didn't hurt either. Yeah. However, I knew that I physically couldn't keep up with some of the fitter guys there, but I knew that I wasn't the worst one there. But my thing was, well, hang on, I'm not there to try and be that person out the front where you pretty much, as I call it, like the sharks start to, okay, all right, we know that you're up here, then the instructors notice that, then they, sort of focus in on that. So, and try and target you, per se. Then I was fortunate enough on my one where I wasn't sort of underperforming. So, on the selection there were people that were underperforming, that were sort of more so targeted than what I was. However, don't get me wrong, I copped my fair share on there as well. So it's not like I was not targeted at all or tested at all. That's definitely not. That's definitely not. What am I trying to say? That's definitely not what happened to me. I was tested and targeted and at different stages, and I was just able to show that I was trainable and that I got through it pretty well in terms of, because I love that side of things. So
you get through. That's not the end of it, is it? How ongoing is the training?
So from there you have to do, so the guys that finish the course, then we had to do a panel. Still don't know whether you're going to be accepted on the course. So there are people that do pass that are deemed not competent at this stage in terms of something's been noticed through that 2-week period that that there's just like, okay, maybe go away work on something, or maybe you're just not suited to this area, or whatever the case might be. So I was like, oh, okay, I still don't know. Then I literally get a phone call from that same sergeant who started the first words on that second day, and says, "Yep, you've got through. Pretty much, you've got through, and the start date's this." And that's pretty much it. That was all the phone call that I got. So.
And how often are you guys training? I know you can't go into specifics, but you're not kicking back on recliners, are you? Because
no.
Yeah.
No. So when there isn't a job, we are training. Yeah. So it's as straightforward as that. So you get allocated your PT training, but your physical training that you got to maintain. However, if there's no job on, you are out there at the facilities working on your skills and doing the required training, because we have qualifications we've got to uphold, but it's obviously to keep us at that level that's required.
You love it?
Love it. Absolutely love it. I love coming to work every day. I just love the fact you just don't know what's going to happen on a daily basis. I love the boys I work with. I'm just one of those guys that I've achieved my goal, what I wanted to achieve, which is get here. And you know what? You work so hard to get here, and I don't want it to end. That's the thing. I know it has to eventually, and it does for people. I just haven't come to that realisation that it's over for me yet. So I'll keep going until either I lose the love for it, or I can't do the job anymore. So however long that is, fingers crossed it's not for a while yet, Ross.
So you're on shift today.
Yes.
The criminal world doesn't work 9 to 5, do they? So you can be yanked out of spare time as well into jobs?
Yep. Definitely. So we always have that 24/7 capability. There's on-call guys that are on call, and we can get called out at any time to deal with whatever situation is taking place. So there are times that things are planned, and there's times that things aren't planned. Like you said, like we criminals work their own hours, so which can be during the day, evenings, early mornings, nights, whatever. So we just
Is it true that heavy hitting criminals would rather be arrested by you guys because it's so swift and professional? There's less likelihood of something going wrong?
I haven't personally spoken to any of them. We sort of we're the people that don't like to be seen. We like to get things done and dusted, and out of there. So probably it's we don't waste any time when we deal with the criminal element. We get the job done.
Why the secrecy? Just as a general question for the listeners, why the secrecy of you guys? Why is that so important?
Well, for us, we don't. We don't like the limelight. Probably a bit of a cliche. I'm not actually doing this for the limelight. Obviously, we'll go into why I'm doing it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Look, we're just like any other person. We we have families, we have friends. We again, don't like the limelight. We have certain methodologies and things that we do that we don't want to get out in the public, and you know, a lot of us just like to blend in with the normal person. You know, which we're able to do quite effectively. So, you know, the secrecy, we don't want our faces plastered all over the TVs or our vehicles or whatever the case might be, even though we've got, you know, quite a array of vehicles that we can utilise and tactics and stuff like that. Yeah, we just, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we just don't want, you know, look, let's be honest, we're dealing with a criminal element that is the worst of the worst out there. So, you know, we just try and minimise the risk that can happen to us, and family and friends and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So tell me about KB.
Yeah, what a champion bloke. So for me, when I first met KB, on the I'm not sure, I can't remember whether it was my actual selection or the intake. However, KB had been at the SOG, had left the job only for, I believe, only for 2 years, and had got back in and was working out at the academy at the time. And yeah, got to know this bloke who had a lot of common interests that I would like to think I have. You know, just a very humble individual who loved defensive tactics, you know, loved to shoot, stuff like that. And it wasn't until my intake that I really got to see a side of him whereby, you know, he was all about getting the best out of you and, you know, wanting to see you succeed and get through. For me, through my childhood, I'd always had mentors and people that would give me advice and help me through. Then, obviously, once losing my mother and father and sort of, you know, I didn't have that. My brother was doing his own thing, obviously being 4 years older and stuff like that, and I didn't have that mentor around me. And it wasn't until I got to the SOG that I really got to see a guy who took me under his wing and gave me guidance, and just made me the person who I am today, really, especially here at this organisation. He's
So you worked with him? You were operationally worked with him?
Yes, I did, mate. Yep.
Yeah.
I had the absolute pleasure of working with KB for 12 years, and loved every part of it. Every minute that I worked with him, I loved, whether we were working together and doing certain things, or whether we're on the jobs together or whatever, you know, whether we were training together. We both suffered injuries at the time, whereby, again, he helped me through that. You know, loving the SOG so much, I thought it would be the end for me. You know, with the amount of injuries that I have sustained and have had here at the SOG, and same with himself too. Like, KB went through some serious injuries, and you know, for us to get back, and I'm not saying my injuries were as far worse as his, definitely not. So for us both to make it back here is a true character, and you know, he was that guiding light for me to help me get back. He would send me books, he would call me, he would just say, yep, one step at a time, mate, you'll get there, you'll be right. and you know, and that just wasn't for me either. There was another close friend of mine, you know, was severely injured as well, and he was the same. There was a group of three of us, and yeah, we were very, very close because we were all injured at that time and helping each other through. And he did that for everyone, not just us as well. So that's just the true character he was.
How close is the camaraderie with the guys that you work with, considering the situations you go into?
Yeah, well, very high. Like you trust in that person with your life. You know, that's where the selection and the intake definitely chooses the right people. You know, you can't afford to go into a potential dangerous situation and have to think, oh God, am I you know, is that person behind me or in front of me actually going to, you know, do the job or whatever's required at the time, or stick by me or help me out. Yeah, it is very critical. And the camaraderie and the mateship that you get here is second to none. You know, you don't get me wrong, everyone has their good and bad days, and you know, let's be honest, like there's, you know, where people work and that you don't all see eye to eye. You know, we are alpha males. We're all different. We all have our own ideas, and some people don't like each other. Let's be honest about that. However, we're able to work together and get the jobs done. And you know, whether you like that person or not, yeah, you're going to be safe. You're going to be good. You know, that person's going to be there for you. So, but in saying that, like, we all get along well. So, yeah, it is a good bond and a good group here.
You ever get scared?
Again, look, I don't want to sound like I'm a He-Man or tough or anything like that, but no, I don't. No. I don't know whether I'm brain dead or what the go is, but
Would it be more the fact that you guys are so well trained and so drilled and so mentally tough and physically fit?
Yeah, I definitely, mate. I think what also helps us is the element of surprise with a lot of it. So it can sort of alleviate some of that fear. Or, you know, I'd say that no, like I'm not scared or anything like that because I love what I do. I'm confident and competent in my ability and the guys around me. That element of surprise, we can sort of, for their safety as well as ours and stuff like that, we can sort of, to a certain degree, pick and choose when we can do things, depending on the situation. So, and having that, you know, camaraderie, great training, yeah, physical fitness, everything like that. Help.
How hard is it for people to leave?
Hard. For some, they just know it's time. So whether that's because they've just gone, yeah, that's enough for me, or whether it's family related, career progression, whether that be within this organisation or elsewhere. You know, I have over, you know, the last couple of years, I've had a lot of mates leave for, you know, career progression within this organisation externally, stuff like that. But the one thing is, they always say that it was the toughest decision that they've had to make. You know, obviously family comes first. So with some, it was definitely a family situation. I completely get all of it. Why people leave and stuff like that. You know, and it's something that is very hard and does take a lot of time for guys. I suppose not all. Some go, yep, no, I've had my share, I've had my fun, or you know, well, not fun, but you know, I've had my time here, and it's time to move on. So, but still, it is a hard decision to make because unless you go to somewhere like the SAS or another police tactical group within Australia or the world or whatever the case might be, you just know you'll never get this again once you leave, and you leave for good. Like, there's no civilian job that would be able to give you this type of work and the highs and the lows and the rushes and whatever else that you get out of this. Yep.
So if this isn't enough, tell us about what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, it's look, to go back to KB, he meant a lot to me, and to everyone here at the unit. He was the guy that he'd walk into a room. If he spoke, everyone listened, and that didn't matter, like whatever rank, age, ability, everything like that. When KB passed, obviously when I found out KB was diagnosed with cancer, I took that pretty hard. I took that really hard, because he was one of those guys that no matter what, it wasn't about him. You try and ask him, how you going? What's going on? Everything like that. And he'd just give you nothing. It was just more about, hey, no, I'm fine. How are you? He'd literally give you the shirt off his back. So for me, it was hard to actually find out what the long-term diagnosis was going to be, or what was going to happen. Obviously, partway through it, things started to, you didn't want to believe it, but you knew that things probably weren't going to pan out well. So on KB's passing, I thought, this bloke's meant so much to me. What can I do to do something in his honour? Do something that this great man can be honoured for and remembered for. It was actually funny, which I didn't know this, but at his funeral, his next door neighbour of God knows how many years didn't even know that KB was in the police force, let alone the SOG. That's how private he was and how passionate he was about this unit. And it wasn't until I actually spoke to KB's wife on that morning of the funeral. Again, just the selflessness of them both was just like, I don't want anyone to give me flowers or donate stuff like that. If anyone's going to do anything, give money to Peter Mac for cancer research. And that's when the idea stemmed in my head that, all right, what can I do to try raise some money? So KB passed on the 9th of November at 12 a.m. And people say that this is unfortunate, but I actually say it's fortunate. My birthday is the 9th of November. So I'll never forget this great man no matter what. It wouldn't have mattered even if he didn't pass away on my birthday. I'd still remember the great man. But I wanted to replicate something whereby I wanted to mark the first anniversary of his passing, being obviously this year on the 9th. I wanted something that was going to be physically tough, like he was. The bloke went through like 6 back surgeries, I just can't fathom the pain that he went through, and obviously the pain that I saw him go through from Ewing sarcoma. Ewing sarcoma is only occurs in 1% of adult cancers, so it's a very rare one, very, very rare. And what I saw it do to KB broke my heart. And no man should ever go through that, or person, sorry. No one, not even your worst enemy, should go through that. And the bloke would not take his medications, his painkillers, because he wanted to be lucid so he could still chat to the last minute. His fighting spirit, second to none. However, I thought, well, okay, I've had 12 major surgeries. Most of them, 90% of them, all on my lower body. All on my ankles, knees, shins, calves, hips, everything. So I knew that running, I'm not a natural runner. I'm a solid individual. I'm a short, stocky sort of guy. So I wanted to try and replicate some pain that he went through by doing a 6-month training cycle to eventually run 441 Ks over 7 days. So that's
Over how many days? 7 days.
7 days, yes. Yep.
So that's over 10 marathons.
So, yep, that's so it's 7 ultramarathons back to back. So it's a marathon and a half a day. So 63 Ks a day I'll be running. So that's, marathon.
Where are you starting? Where are you finishing?
Yep. So starting off in my hometown, Nathaya, on the 3rd of November and finishing on the steps of the Victorian Police Centre on the 9th of November to mark that first anniversary of KB's passing.
That I don't even know what to say to that. Let's do this then. Can you tell people how they can donate to this amazing cause, please?
Yeah, for sure. If people would love to donate, please do. Please go to www.run4kb.com, where you actually, when you come to that link, that page, it will actually show obviously why I'm doing it, the person that he was, and everything like that, and you'll get a true sense of what this. Who KB was, who a little bit about me, what I was and why I'm doing it. From there, you just scroll down to the bottom of the page where you've got the donate, which will take you straight to the GoFundMe. To date, my main goals is to raise awareness, obviously, about Ewing sarcoma, but I want to try and raise $100,000, and at present it's sitting at $56,000, which is absolutely fantastic. From there, obviously, we've got our Instagram page and our Facebook page, and that just gives updates on how the training's coming along and everything like that. I've just completed a 200 Ks over 4 days. So I did a 60, 55, 45 and a 40 K run, starting at 11 p.m. at night and running through the night, and getting those Ks in the legs in preparation for this mammoth run and task in November.
Can you give us that website again, please, Kyle?
Yeah, for sure. It's www.run4kb.com.
Okay. So we're going to have that in the show notes. We're also going to have that on my Instagram and Facebook pages. Awesome. Kyle, a couple of sayings come to mind after speaking to you. The first one is, it's not what happens to you in life, it's how you deal with it. Now, that's very easy for a civilian like me to say that, but you have certainly taken the high road. And I think the other saying that comes to mind is, from pressure come diamonds, and you're a rough diamond, but you are an extraordinary person, Kyle. And it's been a privilege and a pleasure to have someone who not only from day to day does one of the toughest jobs anyone can think of, but as well as that, you're now suffering for one of your comrades and raising money for a good cause. Kyle, you are an extraordinary person, and thank you so much for joining the Bare Facts today.
No, mate. Thank you, Ross. Look, I'm fortunate enough to know what you do for a job as well, mate. So please don't sell yourself short too, mate. A Paramica and the stuff that you've seen and done over your years, mate. We work closely with the Mica units. Please don't sell yourself short there, mate. So you're someone I look up to and work alongside and with, and thank you, mate. It is very much appreciated, and thank you for your service and everything that you do, mate. So
you've just proven my point, Kyle, and deflected from a compliment.
Yeah, look, we're not people here for compliments or medals or anything like that, mate. I just want to raise awareness and raise some money. So please, people, jump on board if you can. Every dollar counts. I'm just doing it for this great man and for a greater cause. So thank you, Ross. I really appreciate you allowing me to come on your show, mate.
We can't wait to see you succeed on November the 9th.
Definitely, mate. There's run, walk, crawl, whatever I've got to do, I will be getting to the end. There's no two ways about that, mate. So, call myself the little Aussie battler, mate. And, I'll just keep battling along till we get to the end there, mate. So I can guarantee that. And feel free to come along and come for a run with me. So, it'll be awesome, Ross. So thank you, mate. It's been an honour and a pleasure to talk to you and be on the show. And, thank you to all the listeners who will listen to this, and please donate. And if any major sponsors want to come on board, well, we've got sponsorship packages as well. So,
guys, Mr. Extraordinary, Kyle Gamble.